So hi everybody, I'm Susan. I'm with Environment for the Americas and I'm glad to have you back this week. As always, I know some of you have already put your names and ages in the chat in the question box, but you can go in and put that on. Hi Jordan, I see your camera. I can't hear you, but I can see you. I'm sure everybody else can. So today, what we're doing is we're going to the Denver Zoo. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to read our book. And we are going to talk a little bit about birds and flightless birds, birds that don't fly. They're called flightless. And then we'll get to meet Ralph the emu at the zoo. So I'm going to keep Jordan's camera on while I start our plan for today because I want to make sure that Jordan can talk. So what I've shared with people, and I know some of you are still coming in, so if you want to share your kids' names and ages, please do that. Jordan, I still don't have sound for you. I've been telling people about our summer bird camp. It'll be virtual bird camp, of course, but the fun thing about that is that we'll get to have participants from Alaska, from all over the place involved in the program together, and you'll have a chance to meet up together. So we have a platform set up where we'll join as a meeting and you'll be together. Each participant will receive 3 packets of materials. They include activities and other materials that you would need for the programs, and you'll do some of those in between our sessions and some at other times. So what I'm going to do while Jordan is working that out is get started, and I might have to break to just help Jordan out. So we've been talking about World Migratory Bird Day and how birds connect our world because we're all together because of birds. That's one way they're connecting us. And we've been doing activities on every bird on our poster. But today we're doing an emu. Why are we doing an emu? Well, we just thought it would be fun for one thing. And we found a great book for another one, just to be honest. But also it's very interesting. So when we work on migratory birds, that is birds that move from one place to another, we're talking about birds that can fly mostly, but not all birds fly. And some of the birds that don't fly also migrate, but we've never had a bird on our poster that doesn't fly. So we wanted to talk a little bit about that today. So today we're going to do a bunch of activities, including meeting Ralph the emu. So not all birds fly, and aren't they a funny looking bird? They just are kind of comic. The story that we're going to read today is about Edward the emu, but the Denver Zoo's is named Ralph. So we'll have 2. All right, let me see if I can get Jordan unmuted. So these are a couple of examples, several examples of some birds that don't fly. Can anyone think, why are there birds that can't fly? Why would a bird not need to fly? Can you put that in the answer box? Why is it that we don't always need birds that fly? Or birds don't always need to fly? Can you give me some ideas about that? Why do you think these birds don't fly? It's a hard question. I think even scientists are still studying it. Any ideas? They're too heavy. Okay, so maybe they can't fly because they're too heavy. These are very large birds, but not all birds that don't fly are super heavy. Some of them are actually quite small. So for example, I'll go to the next one. For example, the kiwi on the right is a very small bird. It lives on the ground. Why doesn't it need to fly? Because they can be fast on the ground. Very good. So birds like the ostrich and the cassowary and the emu actually run very fast, don't they? So maybe that's kind of like flying on the ground. They don't need their wings, but they do need their legs, right? So very good idea. That may have come from Samantha. Any other ideas? I know Jordan can probably talk about this a little bit later, but what people think is that birds flew to islands. A lot of these birds that don't fly live on islands, not all of them, but a lot of them. And so when they got to islands, there wasn't anything on those islands that wanted to eat them. So they were kind of safe. And so they didn't really need to fly. So they kind of got maybe lazy about it and started staying on the ground. So once they started staying on the ground, and they didn't need to fly. They started to change. Their bodies started to change. And look at their wings. What do you notice about their wings? What's different about these birds' wings than the wings of birds that fly long distances? What's different? Are their wings long or short, bigger or smaller? What do you think? Compared to, say, a bird that flies a long distance. Think about, we've talked about terns. Any ideas about the wings? Look at the penguin's wings. Look at how short those are compared to its body. Okay, Akiva says they have little wings, and the Koenig family says they're shorter. And the Dazo family says they're big in every size. Well, the bird's big, but usually on these flightless birds, actually the wings are quite a bit smaller. Let's go back to the other previous page. Where are the wings? Where are the wings on these birds? You don't even really see them. So wings are not important. Some of them don't even have them really anymore. And some of them, like the penguin, well, it uses it because kind of basically it's flying or flying underwater. So it needs something to help propel it, but they're quite short. So very good, you guys, very good thinking. So the thing is that maybe they moved to these islands and they just didn't need to move around. So before I start, didn't need to fly. So before I start our book, and after the book, we're gonna meet Ralph. I wanna see if, Jordan, if you have sound yet. Can you unmute yourself?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, hi, Jordan.
Excellent. Hello.
So to keep them excited, Jordan, do you wanna tell them where you are?
Yes, so I am at Denver Zoo. I am a caretaker for mostly African hoofstock like giraffe and zebra, but I also take care of one of our most famous birds here at Denver Zoo, and that is Ralph the emu. So he lives in an exhibit with 3 kangaroos.
3 kangaroos?
Yes.
And do they get along?
They do get along. They get along quite well, actually.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, what I'm going to do right now, Jordan, is I'm going to turn off my camera and I'm going to read the book. You can keep yours on or turn yours off. And then when I'm done, we'll come back to you and we'll meet Ralph and let you talk a little bit about emus, and they'll get to ask you questions.
That sounds great.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Yes.
Okay, everybody, I'm off. And so here we go with Edward the emu. Edward the emu was sick of the zoo. There was nowhere to go. There was nothing to do. And compared to the seals that lived right next door, well, being an emu was quite frankly a bore. So that night when the zookeeper went home to bed, Edward jumped from his pen and he laughed as he said, "The seals are best, anybody can tell. So tomorrow I'll just be a seal as well." The next morning at 9, when they opened the zoo, the seals were swimming, and Edward was too. He dived in the water and basked in the sun, and he balanced a ball on his beak just for fun. Well, Edward was really enjoying the day till he overheard someone behind the fence say, "The seals are always amusing, it's true, but the lion's the best thing to see at the zoo." So that night, when the zookeeper went home to bed, Edward jumped from the pool and he smiled as he said, "The lion's the best. Anybody can tell. So tomorrow I'll just be a lion as well." The next morning at 9, when they opened the zoo, the lions were roaring and Edward was too. He snarled at the ladies and growled at the men. Life was certainly grand for a lion in his den. Well, Edward was having a wonderful day till a man in the crowd had the gumption to say, "The lion's a beast I shall always detest. The snakes are the things that I like to see best." So that night, When the zookeeper went home to bed, Edward crept from the cage, and he grinned as he said, "If the snakes are the best things and that's what they say, then tomorrow I'll just be a snake for the day." The next morning at 9, when they opened the zoo, the snakes were all hissing, and Edward was too. He slipped around the rocks. It was magic to see. Then he curled himself casually up round a tree. Well, Edward was just warming up for the day when he overheard one of the visitors say, "Oh, the snakes are impressive. I know that it's true, but the emu's by far the best thing at the zoo." "The emu!" gasped Edward. "My goodness, that's me. I'm the thing that gentleman most likes to see. Not the seals, the lions, the snakes, and the rest. It's Edward the emu he likes to see best." So that night, when the zookeeper went home to bed, Edward slipped from the cage, and he laughed as he said, "If the emu's the best, then that's easy then. Tomorrow I'm Edward the emu again." Edward ran to the place where he used to reside, but oh, what a shock! When he clambered inside, he found himself suddenly come face to face with the emu they brought in to take Edward's place. The emus considered each other a while. Then the new emu said with a shy little smile, "Hello, I'm Edwina. It's nice meeting you. You're the best thing I've seen since I came to the zoo." And that's the end. And now we get to meet Ralph. Jordan, are you still there?
I am still here.
Well, we are
All right.
excited to meet Ralph now that we've learned about Edward.
Excellent. All right. Can you all see me okay?
Yes,
All
perfect.
right. So bear with me for just a little bit. I am on a computer instead of my phone. So I'm going to turn it around and hopefully you guys can see Ralph. Ralph is walking. So he hopefully will come over. He's pretty excited. So Ralph loves people. Ralph is 23 years old and he has been at Denver for the last 20 years. This has pretty much always been his home. He lives with 3 kangaroos and he gets along with them very well. So Ralph is kind of walking over towards me. He's not quite as familiar with a camera or with a computer, but he loves scratches. So hopefully he will come over here. So as he's coming closer, I have another zookeeper out here with me, Christina, who's going to help me. We might even give him a bath while I'm on with you guys. I'll tell you a little bit about emus. So they live in Australia, and as we learned earlier, they are flightless birds. So even though they're flightless, they still have wings. So Ralph has 2 tiny wings. They're kind of the size of chicken wings, that you might eat or see on a chicken, but they actually help him kind of steer direction when he runs really fast. So emus can run about 30 miles an hour, which is very fast, and this as fast as a lot of other animals in the kingdom, kind of any African hoofstock can run about that fast,
Hey,
which is
Jordan,
very fast for a bird.
stop you for just a second. I'm sorry. I
Okay.
had a comment in our chat box. Can everybody see Jordan? I have one person who says your screen is black, so I need to know if other people can see Jordan. I have the Dazo family let's see, the Koenig family can see you. We can see you.
Okay.
It's good now. Okay, great. All right, you can continue. I'm sorry for interrupting you. And
No
everybody
worries.
online, if you want to start having your kids put their questions in the question box when Jordan's ready, we can start sharing those questions.
Yes. All
Back
right,
to
so we're gonna hopefully Ralph will come take a bath here in just a moment. Christina set up a mister for him. So like I said, I'm trying to think about where I left off. Yes, so they live in Australia. They are the second largest bird. The first is the ostrich, which lives in Africa, but they're in the same family, which is the rat-type family. Those are all flightless birds. What makes Ralph and other emus unique is their feathers are actually pretty weird. They have a double shaft, is what it's called. So their feathers, each where they connect to the body, they're actually two feathers. And hopefully Ralph will come over so I can show you guys close up what that looks like. He's currently, it's hard to see right now, but he's walking around. He's thinking about going into this bath that Christina has set up for him. He loves the mister, so on really hot days, we like to put this out for him. And he rolls around in the dirt and just has a grand old time. And usually the the kangaroo just like to stare at him and watch him. Sometimes they get in with him.
and
Emus generally are, oh, sorry, go ahead.
And one thing for you, Jordan, when you move too quickly, it pixelates quite a bit. So the more still you are, probably the better. Yeah, because then it gives it time to come back in.
Perfect. I'll just kind of get down. Perfect. All right. So can you all see okay? Hopefully that's a little bit better. It's hard with the
getting
computer.
better.
He's going over to
Oh, look at Kangaroos.
Yes. So sometimes when he gets really excited, he likes to chase the kangaroo around and they start hopping. It is okay. They all get along well. That's just him kind of getting excited, probably about his bath. So hopefully he'll come back over. Emus are what we like to call omnivorous, which means that they eat both meat and plants. Mostly they eat plants, but they will eat some insects. Here at Denver Zoo, Ralph gets apple and carrot every single day, and he gets a specialized grain made specifically for emus. And occasionally he'll get like a hard-boiled egg. What's really cool about emus is they are migratory a little bit and what we like to call nomadic. So they don't really stay in one place. They actually like to move around quite a bit. Usually in Australia in the summers, they'll stay on the northern side of Australia. And then in the winter, they'll move towards the south. So Ralph, as you see, he's the only emu we have here at Denver Zoo. And that is okay. Emu are generally pretty solitary and they stay by themselves, except for when they move around in large groups, they can come together. But that doesn't mean they like to hang out together. They just happen to all be going to the same place, kind of like if your parents are driving on the highway, they're around other cars. What's also really interesting about emus is that the dads actually take care of the babies. So the mom will come lay some eggs and the dad will sit on the eggs until they hatch, which is about a month to a month and a half. And he will actually then raise the babies for about 7 months to a year until they become bigger and then go out on their own. And the moms usually go and do their own thing at that point. And it's the dads who take most care of the babies. I don't know if you can see, but he's running around the back. He's pretty excited right now. So he's having a lot of fun. He just went out of the picture.
So is it typical that he plays with the kangaroos?
Ralph he's pretty excited right now. Yes. What was the question? What was the question?
Does he typically play with the kangaroos?
Oh, I'm sorry. Play? Not as much play. He sometimes likes to lie down by them. And he likes to just hang out with them. And he likes to do what he's kind of doing now, which is chase them around and get them all excited. Ralph is pretty excited right now because since the zoo is currently closed, he's missing the guests. He actually is a fan favorite and loves to interact with the guests at the front of the exhibit. And so he's pretty excited that we're out here with him right now. We might try to get him down for some scratches here in just a minute. Do you all have any questions about emus so far?
So far, the Zollner family asked, what do emus eat? And you talked about what you feed Ralph, but is that what Ralph, if Ralph were in the wild, what else would he eat?
in the wild, he would eat plants, mostly grasses. So they live kind of in the grassland area, and bushes, and they would probably eat a bunch of grasshoppers, and some fruits and veggies that just are wild in that area. So
Okay.
there's Christina over there. He's thinking about it. So he's a little wild right now.
Wow. Any other questions from all of you out there about Ralph? Or about Jordan and her work with Ralph and all the other animals at the zoo? So when we read the book, Jordan, it said, you know, Edward was bored. Does Ralph get bored?
He does not get bored. So one thing, he is actually very playful. Sorry, I'm trying to stay as still as possible. He loves to interact with different toys. We'll put out different balls for him to play with. And he likes to actually pull apart and shred lettuce. So sometimes we'll put out a whole head of lettuce and he likes to just tear it apart. He loves, like I said, interacting with guests. So that is one thing that he is missing right now. He likes to patrol our yard that he's in and stay up front, and he actually will talk to the guests. And when I say talk, he does the vocalizations that emus do, which is a low boom. It sounds kind of like a boom, boom, which is pretty cool to hear. And as you can see, he's getting scratches right now from our keeper, Christina. That is another thing that he loves. So he loves scratches. When we come out to clean the yard, he likes to follow us around. And usually he likes to play with our rake that we use to pick up their poop. And then he likes to just follow us until we finally start scratching him and give him a good scratch.
So the Koenig family wants to know if Ralph is a male or a female.
That is a great question. Sorry, I'm just going to try to move a little slower to Ralph so you can get a better close-up. Ralph is a male. He used to live with another male that we had here, but over the last 6 years, he has been solitary. And he loves his bachelor life.
And Akiva, who has her duck with her today, wants to know why he's with the kangaroos and why he's like looks like he's playing with them.
Yeah, that is a great question. So he's with the kangaroo because in the wild, they would actually be with the kangaroo as well. They live kind of around in the same areas, or can. And so here at Denver Zoo, it's a good place to kind of show that they live geographically in the same area in Australia. And they eat similar things. Kangaroo are also herbivorous, and only really eat plants, the grasses around. And they just overall get along very well. So most zoos you go to, you would actually see probably kangaroo and emu together. They provide good company for each other.
Oh, that's good to know. I didn't know that. And Jack wants to know if Ralph feels soft.
That is a great question, Jack. So they do feel very soft. He probably doesn't feel soft right now because he's wet. So he probably kind of feels like a wet dog. But right up front here, his feathers are pretty soft. And then as you move towards kind of his butt area, his feathers actually get a little more wiry. And that's because what they can do is they can kind of shake those feathers to scare off any predators that they might have in the wild, which isn't many. It can be dingoes and crocodiles, but they can kind of shake them and it sounds like a maraca a little bit.
Okay, here's a question I just love from the Kurdic family. Do emus or birds in general have belly buttons?
That is a great question that I am not sure. Christina, do you know, do birds have belly buttons? Yeah, sort of. So Christina said yes, sort of. So it's a little bit different because like all other bird species, they're from an egg. And if you have a belly button, that generally means that you are in your mother's stomach for the time where you have an umbilical cord. And so they have an umbilicus, which is belly button like, but it is not the same. It's a very complicated answer for that's a very good question. Hard to answer.
How about in terms of like breeding plumage? Does Ralph get any different plumage during the breeding season than he would the rest of the year?
He does not. So he is this color all year round. What he's currently going through is a molt. So I can try to get the camera a little bit closer. So you can kind of see right where Christina's hands are, his little feathers are coming in, and they are black when they first start, but then they turn this gray color as the sun hits them and they kind of fade. But his plumage does not change as it does with other birds.
Okay, so Sophia Ray, who is in Trinidad and Tobago, wants to know, do emus sleep during the day and at night?
That is a great question. They do sleep sometimes during the day, during the heat of the day, but they sleep mostly at night. So they're awake for most of the day. Get Ralphie's face. There we go.
And we talked a little bit last week for all of you who were on Storytime, I think it was last week, about ducks and how do ducks stay dry. So you just gave Ralph a bath. Does Ralph oil his feathers?
He does not. So that is something that is pretty unique about emus, is they do not oil their feathers the same way. So he cannot repel water the way other birds can, but that is okay because he can't fly. So what he'll do after we give him a bath is he'll go sit out in the sun somewhere and dry off that way. So
So
he really does feel like a wet dog right now.
he looks like a wet dog. So
Yes.
I know that people buy emu oil. Where are they getting the oil?
The oil still comes from their skin, just as kind of like humans can have oily skin. I'm not quite sure how they excrete the oil from emus. I would actually have to do some research on that. But they don't oil it the same way that other birds do. If that makes sense.
And then
So,
the Koenig family wants to know, I think you mentioned this earlier, but how old is Ralph?
Ralph is 23 years old, born in 1997, and he has been here at Denver Zoo for 20 years.
Wow. And how long do emus live?
In the wild, they live between 10 to 20 years, but in captivity in different places, they can live anywhere into their 30s, or I've even heard of one that was 60 years old. That one's kind of an extreme, but probably 30 or so is average in captivity situations.
Wow. Wow. So the feathers on his head look quite different from the feathers on his body.
Yes, they are. They're just kind of how people have, arm hair feels different than hair on your head. It's the same for them. So the feathers are just modified for different reasons. And they're just these cute little tiny feathers up top. He likes his head scratched. I was trying to see if, since he's molting right now, sometimes when we scratch him, the feathers just kind of poof out. I don't see that they are. But yeah, they actually are just little tiny versions of kind of what's on his body and softer.
And some of his skin doesn't have feathers. Is that typical?
That is typical, yes. That way you can kind of see the bluish part of their skin right here. So they won't, some of them do kind of, I've seen emus at other zoos that have a head full of hair that kind of cover their whole head and neck area, and others are even more blue than Ralph is right now. So you can kind of see on his neck right here, hopefully you can see my finger. He's a little more blue too, and that's because he's molting. So he usually right now, this is the time of year that he'll lose more feathers on his neck, and then they'll come back probably in about a month or so. They're already starting to grow in a little bit. But up here, he's almost always blue. We can always see that plumage right there. Or not the plumage, the color of his skin.
Any more questions from all of you out there? I'm asking a lot of questions. Jordan, how long have you been taking care of Ralph?
I have been taking care of Ralph for about 6 years now.
Oh, wow. And
Yes.
Is it hard for an emu, for example, to have a change in zookeeper?
Not so much. It can a little bit, but that is something that we have worked pretty hard on with Ralph, is to make sure that he is used to any of the people on my team. If we have new people come out here, he's usually pretty curious and can sometimes get a little pushy just because he's not familiar. And when I say pushy, he means he just kind of likes to get in our personal space and want extra cuddles. And then we'll give him those until he gets comfortable with the person. And then he's like, okay, I'll take a cuddle from you or scratches for 30 seconds rather than 5 minutes. So kind of like, can be like a new dog who gets excited when, or a dog when like strangers come over to the house, or guests, I should say.
Uh-huh.
But he does really well. He's always been very friendly with people.
Oh, he's very friendly. And the
Yes,
wine family wants to know again about the sound that they make. Can you repeat that?
I can. Yes, it is a very deep booming sound. So it's kind of like, mm, mm, mm. He's hearing me. I was hoping he would do it for you. Sometimes he will. He will do that sometimes if he sees us up front. But at the front of the exhibit and he knows somebody familiar, he will boom back at us. We call it a boom. And it sounds very much like the bass of a car. So sometimes you can be in another part of the zoo and you can actually hear that boom.
And the Zellner family wants to know, why are they blue?
That is a great question, and I do not know why they are blue. I think it is just a characteristic of this specific type of bird, just kind of like how cassowaries can have a little bit of blue or red on them. And cassowaries is another type of ratite that they are most closely related to that lives in the same area.
Mm-hmm. And the Zellner family also wants to know if they have ears.
They do kind of have ears. So if you can kind of see, I'm going to point with my finger right here. He has where he can hear. So they're not ears that extend outside of his body like we have ears or other animals do. They're just these holes per se. So he has excellent hearing and excellent eyesight.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, so that's the first time all of you have been able to actually see the bird's ears. And that's because this bird doesn't have many feathers on his head. So it's like if you took off the outside of your ear, you would just have a hole in your head, right? Where your sound would come in. But I think our ear helps to trap the sound into our ear. It also helps to keep out dirt and everything probably. So our ears have this outside part to help us in other ways. But birds, because they have feathers and because many of them fly, probably don't want that extra appendage sticking out to interrupt them when they fly. It would flap. It'd be like an elephant flying, right? The Koenig family wants to know if they have teeth.
They do not have teeth. So he just has a beak that's actually quite soft compared to other birds, I should say. You can see how he kind of just uses it to eat the grass, but no teeth.
Yeah.
He has the around his beak, it's kind of a little serrated, so it helps rip it off, but they're not teeth.
Huh.
And so I was talking about his feathers a little bit earlier. I don't know if you can kind of see. I'm trying to hold it still, but you can see where it can. Oops, it's hard on a computer. Sorry about that.
There you go.
It has just one part where it attaches, but then there are always two feathers that are part of it. So it's really weird. So when he's molting, they come off just like this, where they have, oh gosh, sorry about this. This is rather complicated. Christina will hold it. So you can kind of see how, yeah, they're just two feathers that are part of each feather plumage. He gets, as you can see, he's entertaining himself with Christina's bracelets as well.
Oh, that's so interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. So the Weinberg family wants to know, if he doesn't have teeth, then how does he eat his food?
He actually kind of, I was hoping he would do it again with the grass. But if we just hold stuff, he picks it up in the front of his beak and then throws it back into his throat. Maybe he'll do it right now with grass.
So basically he swallows
some treats for him. But yeah, yes, he does. Everything is whole. He does not chew. So that is something here that we make sure that we cut things to appropriate size, since he doesn't chew. And he does a great job. What's really cool is sometimes you can actually see it go down his throat, and you can actually see like a food particle kind of move all the way down. Looks very alien-like.
Like a snake eating a rat.
Yes, exactly.
That's incredible. Okay. Oh, Jordan, I want to thank you so much for coming on and introducing Ralph to us and giving us a chance to see an emu up close and personal. I bet everybody's missing doing things like going to the zoo and seeing animals. And we appreciate all the work you do. I don't know if you could just end with a little bit about the conservation importance of zoos.
Absolutely, I would love to. Well, I can just leave the camera on him. Zoos are incredibly important just for conservation. It not only allows people to be able to see animals that they wouldn't normally be able to see. For example, not many people have an opportunity to go out of the country to see some of these animals. I'll move it on. Maybe we'll try to leave it on him for you. Sorry about that. But zoos also help conservation in a lot of different capacities as far as donating money, participating in different field projects, or being able to reintroduce animals back into the wild. So for example, they're not emus because they're not endangered, but there are African hoofstock like an addax, which has been extinct in the wild, where zoos have actually been able to breed a population to actually be able to release in a protected area back into Africa. And there are multiple examples of that with a lot of different species. But zoos are just a great place to have ambassador animals to build connections between guests and communities and the wildlife. Go ahead.
Yeah, and we sure
Whoops.
that work. It's super important, and I know there's lots of research that is supported internationally by zoos, and the conservation work is all really important to helping to protect many species. So thanks for all that you do, Jordan, and all the kids out there singing, thank you, Jordan.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, great. We will let you get on with your day. And for those of you who are on the line, I have a quick activity if your kids are still holding on out there and feel like doing one more activity, then I will turn on my camera and we'll do that. Thank you, Jordan. So what I have for you guys is we want to see what you've learned today. And Chuyu's back to help me. Do you remember Chuyu? Chuyu helped us with our origami bird. And so what we're going to do, that's hard, trying to hold our activity board, is we have some birds for you. And what we want you to do is figure out, is this a flightless bird, a bird that does not fly, or a bird that flies? So I'm going to hold up a bird. Here it comes. How about this penguin? Do you think it flies or does it not fly? Akiva says it does not fly. And you're right, although I always like to joke that they're actually flying underwater. So you just never know. Now, this is one that we talked about earlier. This is the cassowary. Does this one fly or not fly? This is the cassowary. I got an answer from Akiva. Anybody else? Flying or not flying? What do you think? Remember what we said? Okay, from the wine family, good. We've got not flying, very good. We're gonna put it on the, whoops, we're gonna put him on the ground. There he is. All right, let's take a parrot. How about a parrot? Does a parrot fly or not fly? Oh, got lots of answers there. Okay, the Williams family says yes. Weinberg family says yes. Others, yes. Yes, definitely parrots fly. And you can tell, look at those long wings. And we talked about how birds that don't fly have little bitty wings. How about the kiwi? Does the kiwi fly or not? Having to peek around the board. Does the kiwi fly or not? It does not fly. Good job, everybody. Does not fly. We're going to put it on the ground. I sent you guys a Ralph picture to color too. How about the rooster? Does the rooster fly? Do any of you have a rooster? How about the rooster? Any ideas about roosters? Ooh, got silence on the line here. This is a trick question. How about the rooster? Everybody says no. One family says yes. Well, I think roosters can fly a short distance. You know how you always hear about the rooster on the roof, cock-a-doodle-dooing? So they can fly short distances, but they're not going to take a long flight. I'm going to put it in between. How does that work? All right. Here's a tough one. This is a great blue heron. How about the great blue heron? Does it fly or not fly? Williams family says they jump. Okay, they might jump too. We got some yeses. Yes, yes, yes. Very good. This is actually a migratory bird. It can fly long distances even though it's very long and it kind of looks like a prehistoric animal. Okay, how about, this is easy. How about the emu? Does the emu fly? This could be Ralph. This could be Edwin. Yes, you're correct. The emu does not fly. I'm going to stick it down here. How about the wood duck? We talked about ducks last week. Does a duck fly? Does a duck fly? Yes, definitely ducks fly. They even fly very long distances and migrate many miles. Let's do just maybe two more. How about, this is a pretty one, how about a parakeet? Does a parakeet fly? Does a parakeet fly? Yes, very good. Look, long wings. And definitely there's something about the body. Like you guys said, those birds that don't fly, they just look really heavy, don't they? So we'll do this one. This is called a, I don't know, let's do the ostrich. You might remember this one. Does the ostrich fly? No, you guys were paying attention today. Good job. All right. Excellent job, everyone. Good job. Thanks to you. Thanks everyone for today. And next week, our story is about a hurricane and how a bird makes it through a hurricane. And it's a true story. So birds actually do fly, and sometimes the birds that fly sometimes get caught in very big storms. And so we're going to learn about storms, and we're going to learn about how this bird made it through a hurricane. If you don't know what a hurricane is, you have to come back next week and we'll talk about what is a hurricane. Also, if you want any information, don't forget to email us. You can send us an email at info@environmentamericas.org and we'll answer you. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. That was great to meet Ralph, and we enjoyed seeing you.